My daughter-in-law, Vanessa, went on a trip with my son and the kids. Before she left, she told me in her usual tone, "We won't need you this time, Mum, but make sure the house is clean." Those words hung in the air like old cigarette smoke. It wasn't what she said. It was how she said it, with that twisted little smile she used every time she wanted to remind me of my place in my own house. I was in the kitchen, drying a plate that wasn't even mine. Vanessa was loading her designer suitcase, the one that cost more than $12,000, money that came out of my savings, though she'd never mentioned that. And my son, Robert, was looking at his phone like it was nothing, as if he hadn't just heard his wife treat me like I was the housekeeper. "Did you hear me, Amelia?" she said again, now using my name like it was an order. "The house clean, the floors, the bathrooms, and please, don't touch our things." Our things, in my house, but I didn't say anything. I just nodded, like I had for 2 years. Because that's what mothers do, right? They keep quiet. They endure. They forgive. Over and over again. Robert finally looked up. "Mum, are you okay?" I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to ask him when I stopped being his mother and became just another piece of furniture in his marriage. But I just smiled at him. "Sure, sweetie, have fun." The kids hugged me before they left. Matt, at 12 years old, squeezed me tight. "I'm gonna miss you, Grandma." Lucy, the youngest, kissed my cheek. "Why don't you come with us?" Vanessa pulled Lucy's arm. "Because your grandma has things to do here. Come on." The door slammed shut with a heavy thud. The silence that followed was so heavy that I had to sit down. And then, in that moment, as I looked at the keys to my house on the table, keys they used as if they were their own, something inside me broke. But not like before. This time it wasn't pain. It was clarity. I got up. I walked to my bedroom. Well, what was left of it. Now it was the guest room, because they needed the master for their family. I opened the drawer where I kept my important papers, and there was the deed to the house. In my name? It had always been in my name. I picked up the phone. My hands were trembling, not from fear, but from something I hadn't felt in years. I dialed a number I had sworn I would never dial again. "Celia," I said when she answered. "It's me. It's Amelia. And I need help." There was a long silence on the other end. Then, the voice of my sister, whom I hadn't spoken to for 15 years, sounded clear. "Sister, what happened?" "What happened is that I stopped being myself, and this time I'm going to get myself back." I hung up. I looked out the window. Robert's car was already turning the corner. I had 7 days before they returned. And when they came back, nothing was going to be the way they left it. Because sometimes, the only way to get your life back is to close the door on those who turned it into their territory. If this story has touched your heart at all, subscribe to the channel, because what happens next, nobody expected. Even that night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the living room with a cup of chamomile tea that got cold in my hands, staring at the walls of what was once my home. You know, there's a moment in every woman's life when she stops seeing herself in the mirror, not because she's aged, but because she's become invisible to everyone, even to herself. I wasn't always like this. There was a time when Amelia Cortez was a name people spoke with respect. I was 28 when I was widowed. Robert had just turned 5. My husband, Joseph, died in an accident on the highway heading toward Dallas. An 18-wheeler, a curve, and in 1 second, my life was split in 2. I was left alone, with a small child, no savings, and a mortgage to pay. But I didn't sink. I couldn't afford that luxury. With Joseph's life insurance money, $95,000 that seemed like a fortune then, I opened a stationery store in the Queens neighborhood. Amelia's Stationery, I called it. Nothing fancy, nothing luxurious, but it was mine. For 30 years, that store was my second child. I opened at 7 o'clock in the morning and closed at 8 o'clock at night. I sold notebooks, pens, copies, prints. I knew every client by name. Mrs. Lopez, who bought poster board every week for her grandkids' school projects. Mr. Miller, who printed his legal documents with me because he said I was the only one who didn't overcharge him. With that business, I paid for Robert's private school. I bought him new uniforms every year, even if I wore the same blouse for 3 seasons. I gave him English lessons, computer classes, everything I never had. When he got to college, I sold my car, a Ford Focus from 2005 that still ran perfectly, to pay for his engineering tuition. Mum, you'll see, when I graduate, I'll pay you back everything, Robert would tell me while I ironed his shirts for his presentations. And I believed him, because that's how mothers are. We believe. When he graduated, I got a loan for $180,000 to give him the down payment for his first apartment. It's an investment, Mum. When I sell it, I'll pay you back with interest. I signed without a second thought. 2 years later, he sold that apartment. I never saw a single dollar back. I invested it in a business, Mum. It's going to make us a lot more money. Just be patient. Then he met Vanessa. The first time I saw her, I knew there was something about her I didn't like. It wasn't her expensive clothes or the way she spoke like she was chewing her words. It was the way she looked at my house, my store, me, as if she were evaluating how much each thing was worth, how much she could get out of it. But Robert was in love. And when a son is in love, the mother steps aside. They got married in a wedding that cost $320,000. I contributed $85,000. It's so your son can have the special day he deserves, Vanessa told me while choosing the most expensive ballroom. I closed the stationery store for 3 days to go to the bank, take out the loan, and hand it over. At the wedding, Vanessa sat me at a table in the back, next to some distant cousins I didn't even know. Robert was so busy with the photos that he barely said hello. It was there, watching my son dance with his wife under those bright lights that I helped to pay for, when I started to disappear. 3 years later, when Joseph was born, they named him after my husband, although Vanessa wanted to change it. Robert came to my house. Mum, we need your help. With the baby, Vanessa can't work. Could we stay with you for a few months? Of course, son. This is your house. The months turned into years, and my house became theirs. I sold the stationery store a year ago. Vanessa convinced Robert it was time for me to rest. You've done enough, Mum. Now we'll take care of you. But no one asked me if I wanted to rest. No one asked me if I wanted to keep working. Feeling the chime of the little bell on the door, the smell of fresh ink, the conversations with my customers who were more like family than my own blood. With the money from the sale, $340,000 now, Robert invested in his business. Vanessa bought new furniture for my living room, and I was left with $143,000 in an account I barely touched, because every time they needed something, there I was. I stood looking at my reflection in the dark living room window, a 67-year-old woman with grey hair pulled back in a loose ponytail, wearing a robe that had seen better days. When did I stop being Amelia to become the mother-in-law? To become Mum, I need money? To become the woman who cleaned bathrooms she didn't dirty and cooked meals no one thanked her for? But that night, sitting in the darkness of my own house, something changed. I remembered the woman who opened a stationery store with a child in her arms and fear in her chest, but who did it anyway. The woman who never gave up, not even when the bank denied her the first loan, or when the customers were slow to arrive, or when the nights were so long they seemed endless. That woman was still there, buried, quiet, forgotten, but alive, and it was time for her to come back. Because you can take everything from a woman, her house, her money, her time, but there is something you can never steal: the moment she decides that enough is enough. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. The sun was coming through the window of my room, the guest room, I corrected myself bitterly, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't get up thinking about what I had to do for them. I got up thinking about me. I made coffee, not the instant kind that Vanessa preferred, but the ground bean coffee that I kept at the back of the pantry, the one I bought secretly because it uses too much electricity to grind it, Mum. The aroma filled the kitchen and I closed my eyes. It smelled like freedom. I grabbed an old notebook, one of those left over from the store, and started walking through the house, my house. But this time I didn't see it through the eyes of a mother or a resigned woman. I saw it through the eyes of an owner, a woman who had been unknowingly dispossessed. I started with the living room. The modern grey couch that Vanessa had bought with business money occupied the centre. My wooden rocking chair, the one Joseph had given me for our 5th anniversary, was crammed in the hallway, covered with boxes of the kids' toys. I sat in it. It creaked as if it recognized me, as if it were asking, "Where have you been?" I wrote in the notebook, "Rocking chair mine." I continued toward the dining room. The table was new, glass, more modern, according to Vanessa. My pine table, the one where Robert had done his homework for 12 years, where we celebrated his birthdays with chocolate cake and coloured candles, was in the junk room. I went to see it. It was dusty, one leg was wobbly. I ran my hand over the surface and found something carved into the wood. R plus M equals love. Robert and Mum. He had carved it with a nail when he was 8. I scolded him, but secretly I liked it. Now that table was trash to them. Pine table, mine. I went up to the master bedroom, my bedroom, the one I shared with Joseph for 15 years. Now it was Robert and Vanessa's. The king-size bed they bought, with $32,000 they borrowed and never paid back, took up all the space. The walls were painted grey, not the sky blue I had chosen because it reminded me of happier days. I opened the closet. My clothes were compressed into one corner. The rest was Vanessa's: dresses, shoes, bags. I counted 22 pairs of shoes. 22. I had 3. In the top drawer, where I used to keep my important documents, I found something that chilled me to the bone: a folder. Inside were papers, printouts of emails. I read the first one. "Robert, my love, I've already convinced your mum to lend us another $85,000 for the business. She's so gullible she didn't even ask what it was for. I told her it was to expand, and she gave it to me without a second thought. With this, we've gotten $215,000 from her, and the best part is she thinks we're going to pay it back someday." The emoji, that emoji laughing at me. My hands shook so much that I dropped the paper. I took a deep breath. I kept reading. "I already spoke with the notary. If your mum signs the power of attorney we're going to present to streamline the will paperwork, we can use the house as collateral for the loan. She won't even notice. It's our chance to get the money we need. I almost have her convinced." I sat on the floor, right there on the floor of my own bedroom, reading how my daughter-in-law and my son planned to steal the only thing I had left. I didn't cry. I had no tears left for them. I took the entire folder, put it in my bag, and went down to the yard, my yard, the one I had taken care of for 20 years, where I planted roses, jasmine, and bougainvillea. Now it was a play area with a plastic slide and a punctured inflatable pool. The flower pots were tossed next to the trash can, the roses dry. I picked up a pot. The dirt was still there. I squeezed a handful of dirt between my fingers and felt it. It still had life. Yard. Mine. I went back to the kitchen. I opened the cabinets. The porcelain plates my mother had given me, the only thing I had left of her, were pushed to the back, replaced by modern IKEA dishware. I took out one of my mother's plates. It had a crack. I remembered when it fell during an argument months ago, when Vanessa yelled at me, "Why do you cook with so much salt, Mum? This is inedible." That day, that plate broke, and I hadn't said anything. Now I held them in my hands as if they were gold. Mum's plates, mine. I spent 3 hours doing that inventory. 3 hours counting everything they had taken from me without asking, not just things, memories, dignity, space. My list ended with 17 items, 17 things that were mine and had been relegated, hidden, forgotten. But there was something else at the very end of that list. Something I wrote with a steady hand. Amelia Cortez, mine. I sat down again in the empty living room with the email folder next to me and my inventory notebook on my lap. I picked up the phone. I dialed Celia's number. This time she answered on the first ring. "Sister," I said, "I need you to come over. I have something to show you." "What happened, Amelia?" "What happened is that I found the truth. And now I really am going to get my life back. All of it." There was a pause. Then I heard her voice, clear and firm. "I'm on my way. Give me an hour." I hung up. I looked around. This house had been my prison. But prisons only work when you don't realize the key was always in your own pocket. And I had just found mine. Because sometimes the first step to recovering yourself is not to confront the person who took everything from you. It's to take inventory of what you still have and realize that that is enough to start over. Celia arrived exactly 53 minutes later. I saw her park from the window. She was driving a simple but well-maintained car, a white Toyota Corolla. She got out with a leather briefcase under her arm and sunglasses that she removed before knocking on the door. When I opened it, we stood looking at each other in silence. 15 years. 15 years without seeing each other. And there was my younger sister, with shorter hair, some grey strands she didn't bother to hide, and those same brown eyes that looked at me from childhood. "Amelia," she said simply. "Celia." We didn't hug right away. There was too much broken time between us, too many words that were never said. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. She walked in slowly, looking at every corner as if she were memorizing the house. She stopped in front of a photo on the wall. Robert, as a child, at his elementary school graduation. I was next to him, smiling, wearing my store uniform because I had come straight from work. "You look happy there," Celia said quietly. I was. We sat down in the living room. I poured her coffee. My hands were still trembling a little, not from nerves, but from everything I was about to let go of. "Sister," Celia began, setting the cup on the table. 15 years ago, you closed the door in my face. You told me I just wanted your money, that I was jealous, that Robert was right about me. Do you remember?" I closed my eyes. Of course I remember. I do. "Then tell me, what changed? Why are you calling me now?" I handed her the folder, the one I had found in my bedroom. Celia opened it and started reading. I watched her jaw tighten with every page. When she finished, she closed the folder with a sharp thwack. "Sons of—" She stopped. She took a deep breath. "Amelia, this is attempted fraud. Did you sign that power of attorney they mention?" No, they hadn't presented it to me yet, but I was going to. Vanessa told me it was to make things easier for me when I could no longer manage my affairs, that it was normal, that all families did it. Celia closed her eyes and shook her head. Amelia, if you had signed that, they could have sold this house without you even knowing, put mortgages on it, emptied your accounts. All legal, because you would have given them the power to do it. The silence that followed was heavy as a stone. There's something else you need to know, Celia said after a moment. Her voice sounded tired, as if she were carrying something she had kept inside for a long time. 15 years ago, when you stopped speaking to me, it wasn't because I wanted your money. It was because I said no to Robert. I looked at her, not understanding. Your son came to my house. He was 26 years old. He told me he was in a jam, that he needed urgent money, that it was for a business that was going to change his life. He asked me for $120,000. He said he had asked you for it, but you didn't want to give it to him. I felt the floor moving beneath my feet. I had just started my practice, Celia continued. I didn't have that money, but I took out a loan. I gave him the $120,000. He made me sign a promissory note. He promised he would pay me back with interest in 6 months. Celia, I never saw a single dollar, Amelia, not one. When I went to look for him, Vanessa, they were already dating then, kicked me out of their apartment. She told me I was self-interested, that I was making things up to get money out of them. And Robert didn't say anything. He just looked at me from behind her and let her insult me. Tears started rolling down my cheeks. Why didn't you tell me? I tried. Don't you remember? I came to your house, to the store. I told you, Amelia, we need to talk about Robert. And you screamed at me. You told me I was jealous of your son, that I had always been the envious one in the family, that I couldn't stand to see you happy. Robert had filled your head with lies. He told you I was making up fake debts to blackmail him. I covered my face with my hands. My God, Celia, I didn't know. I know. That's why I'm here. She leaned forward and took my hands in hers. Sister, for 15 years I was angry at you, but I also missed you every day. And when you called me yesterday, I knew you had finally opened your eyes. Forgive me, I whispered. Please, forgive me. I forgave you a long time ago. What I didn't forgive was not fighting harder to make you see the truth. But now we can fix this. How? Celia, he's my son. I know, and I don't want you to lose your son, but I also can't stand by and watch them destroy you. She opened her briefcase and took out a tablet. I'm a lawyer specializing in family and estate law, and what I'm about to tell you isn't easy, but you need to hear it. This house is in your name, right? Yes, Joseph and I bought it 35 years ago. When he died, it was completely in my name. Does Robert pay rent? Do they have a loan agreement? Anything legal authorizing them to live here? No, I just told them they could stay. Celia nodded. Then legally you have every right to ask them to leave. It's your property. And with these emails you found, we have evidence of attempted financial fraud. If necessary, we could even file a complaint. I don't want to put my son in jail, Celia. I know, and it doesn't have to come to that. But Amelia, she looked at me intently. Do you want to keep living like this? Being the servant in your own house? Waiting for the day they ask you to sign a paper that leaves you on the street? I didn't answer because the answer was already clear. You have 7 days before they return, Celia continued. 7 days to reclaim your house, your life, your dignity. But you need to decide now. Are you going to continue to be the mother who sacrifices in silence? Or are you going to be the woman who defends herself? I looked at my sister, the sister I had lost by believing lies, the sister who, despite everything, was here offering me her hand. I want to be Amelia again, I said, my voice firm. I want to be me. Celia smiled. For the first time in 15 years, I saw that smile I remembered from our childhood. Then let's get started. We spent the rest of the afternoon planning. Celia took notes, made calls, reviewed documents. Every now and then she would explain something legal to me, and I would nod, still not entirely believing this was happening. When the sun began to set, Celia closed her briefcase. Tomorrow we start. I'm going to bring a locksmith, a notary, and all the papers we need. But Amelia, there's something you need to understand. When you do this, there's no turning back. Robert is going to react badly. Vanessa, worse. It's going to hurt. It already hurts, I replied. It's hurt for years. But this pain, this is different. This pain has a purpose. Celia hugged me, and this time I hugged her back. Hard, like sisters. When she left, I was alone in the house. But for the first time in a long time, that solitude didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like preparation. Because there are people who come into your life to rescue you. And sometimes, those people are the same ones you let go of years ago. All you need is the courage to call them back. Tuesday dawned differently. Not because the sun shone brighter or the birds sang differently. It dawned differently because I was different. Celia arrived at 8 o'clock in the morning with 2 coffees and a box of Danish pastries. Behind her came a man about 50 years old in blue overalls and a toolbox. "This is Tony," Celia introduced, "the best locksmith in town, and more importantly, he's discreet." Tony greeted me with a firm handshake. "Mrs. Cortez, with your permission, we're going to change all the locks. The main lock, the back one, the windows, everything. When I'm done, you'll be the only person with keys to this house." I stared at the door. The same door Robert and Vanessa had walked out of 3 days ago. The same one they closed without looking back. "Do it," I said. While Tony worked, Celia spread papers on the dining room table. "First things first," she said, placing the house deed in front of me. "This property has been in your name since 1990, 35 years. There's no other name on the title. Not Robert's, not Vanessa's, not anyone's. It is yours, completely." "But they live here," I said, still with that voice of doubt that had accompanied me for so long. "They live here because you allowed it. That's called verbal comodatum. But since there's no contract, they have no rights of possession. Legally, they are guests. And guests leave when the owner decides." She slid another document across. "This is an amicable eviction notice. It's not a lawsuit. It won't go to court. It's just a paper where you, as the owner, inform them that you need them to vacate the property within a 30-day period." 30 days? It's the legal minimum, so it doesn't seem arbitrary. "But Amelia," she looked at me seriously, "you don't have to give it to them if you don't want to. This is just in case you need legal backing. My recommendation is that when they return, you talk to them. You explain that this is your house and you need your space back. If they react badly, then we use this." I nodded, though my stomach churned at the thought of that conversation. Now, the second thing. Celia pulled out the folder of emails I had found. "This is evidence of conspiracy to commit financial fraud. With these messages, we could file a criminal complaint. But that would mean Robert would have a record. He could even go to jail." "No," I said immediately. "I don't want that." "I know. But you need to keep this stored somewhere safe. Because if they react violently, if they try to do something against you, this is your protection. Do you understand? I understand. Tony finished with the main door. All set, Mrs. Cortez. Try it. He gave me 3 new keys. I held them in my hand. They were heavy, real. I closed the door and opened it again. The sound of the lock was different, firmer, as if the house itself were saying, "Now you're protected." "Now we need to talk about money," Celia said when we sat down again. "How much do you have saved?" $143,000 in the bank. Does Robert have access to that account? I froze. No, I don't know. Years ago I gave him an additional card for emergencies. Celia was already dialing her phone. "We're going to the bank now." In less than an hour, we were at the branch. The executive, a young woman named Frances, reviewed my account. "Mrs. Cortez, I see there is an additional card in the name of Robert Cortez Amelia. He has the same access as you." I felt the air leave my lungs. "Can I cancel it?" "Of course, it's your account. I can do it right now." "Do it, please." Frances typed something on her computer. "Done. The card has been cancelled. I also recommend that you change your PIN and activate SMS alerts for any movement." "There's something else," Celia intervened. "We need to open a new account, in my sister's name only, at a different bank." 2 hours later, my $143,000 were in a new account at a different bank with a card that only I knew about. "Now he can't touch you," Celia said as we left the bank. "Your money is safe." But I still didn't feel safe. I felt like I was betraying my son. Celia must have seen something on my face because she stopped in the middle of the street and grabbed my shoulders. "Amelia, listen to me closely. Protecting what's yours is not betrayal. Setting boundaries is not cruelty. What we are doing is justice. It's taking back what they never should have taken." We went back to the house. Tony had finished with all the locks. He handed me a set of 6 keys. "Your fortress is ready, ma'am," he said with a smile. When he left, Celia and I stood in the middle of the living room. "And now?" I asked. "Now you reclaim your space." We spent the rest of the day reorganizing. We pulled the rocking chair out of the hallway and put it back in the living room. We moved Vanessa's grey couch to the junk room. We brought my pine table into the dining room and cleaned every inch until it shone again. We went up to the master bedroom. Celia looked at me. "Do you want your room back?" I looked at the king-size bed. I looked at the closet full of Vanessa's clothes. And for the first time, I said what I really thought. "I want them to leave." We started packing. Not with violence, not with vengeance, with respect, but with firmness. We folded every garment, every sheet. We put everything in boxes. Their shoes, their perfumes, their things. By Wednesday night, my bedroom was mine again. I had put on the blue sheets I liked. The photos of Joseph were back on the nightstand. The smell of lavender that always relaxed me filled the space. I sat on my bed. My bed. And I cried. But not from sadness, from relief. "Something else is missing," Celia said Thursday morning. "What?" "Security." She brought a technician who installed 3 cameras. One at the entrance, one in the backyard, one in the living room. "They connect to your phone. You'll be able to see everything in real time." Isn't that excessive? Not when there's $340,000 at stake and documented attempted fraud. Amelia, you need to protect yourself. On Friday, Celia had one more idea. "Do you remember the stationery store? Your customers?" "Of course." Do you still have their contacts? Some. Why? Because when Robert and Vanessa return, they're going to try to discredit you. They're going to say you're crazy, senile, manipulated. And you need people who will speak for you, people who truly know you. I spent the afternoon calling old clients. Mrs. Lopez, Mr. Miller, Ms. Johnson. One by one, I told them what was happening. One by one, they told me, "Count on me, Amelia." By Saturday, 6 days after they left, the house was unrecognizable. It was my house again. Celia stood looking at everything with her arms crossed. "How do you feel?" "Scared," I admitted. "They come back tomorrow." "I know. But look at everything you accomplished in 6 days. You reclaimed your house, protected your money, changed the locks, installed cameras, gathered support. Amelia, you built your freedom." She was right. But still, my heart beat like a drum when I thought about seeing Robert walk through that door. "What if I regret it?" I whispered. "What if when I see him I can't do it?" Celia hugged me. "Then you'll have me, and you'll remember why you started this. Not for revenge, for dignity." That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in my living room, in my rocking chair, staring at the door. Tomorrow, when they opened it with their old key, they would find a new lock. And on the other side, a new woman too. Because freedom isn't given away, it's built, brick by brick, decision by decision. And sometimes it only takes 72 hours to change an entire life. Sunday dawned with a clear sky that seemed to mock the storm I felt in my chest. Celia arrived early with bags from the grocery store. "We're going to make some food," she said. "You need to be busy or you'll go crazy thinking." She was right. My hands trembled as I peeled potatoes. Every time I heard a car pass on the street, my heart jumped. "What time did they say they'd arrive?" Celia asked. "Robert sent me a message last night. We'll get in around 5 o'clock, Mum. We'll grab dinner on the way." I looked at the clock. It was 10 o'clock in the morning. 7 hours. The doorbell rang and I nearly dropped the knife. "Relax," Celia said. "It must be her." "Her?" Celia smiled mysteriously and went to open it. She returned with a young woman, about 23 years old, with her hair pulled back in a ponytail and clear eyes that looked at me shyly. "Amelia, this is Sarah," Celia introduced. "Sarah, this is my sister." The girl held out her hand. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Cortez." "Sarah?" I repeated, confused. Celia served all three of us coffee, and we sat down. "Let me explain," my sister began. "Sarah is a nursing student at the university. She just arrived from Chicago to do her practicals at the General Hospital. She needs a safe, clean place to live that's close to the hospital. And that doesn't cost an arm and a leg, because she's barely getting by on her scholarship." I looked at the girl. She looked like a kind person, one of those who still smiles even when life isn't easy. "I don't understand what this has to do with me," I said. "You have 3 bedrooms in this house," Celia continued. "One is yours, the other was Robert and Vanessa's, and the third, the one that was the kids', is also empty. How about you rent a room?" My mouth fell open. "Rent? Celia, I've never—" "Listen to me. First, it would give you a fixed monthly income. Sarah can pay $450 a month. That's what a room costs in this area. Second, you would have company. You wouldn't be alone in this big house. And third," Celia leaned forward, "when Robert and Vanessa arrive today and see that someone else is living here, they will immediately understand that things have changed, that this is no longer their house." Sarah spoke for the first time, her voice soft. "Mrs. Cortez, I don't want to cause you any trouble, but I promise I'm very tidy, very respectful. I study a lot, so I hardly make any noise. And well, my mum had a stationery store in Chicago. Lucy's Stationery, she called it. You met her many years ago when you went to a conference there. I looked up, surprised. Lucy Miller? Your mum is Lucy? Sarah's eyes filled with tears. She was. She died 2 years ago. Cancer. But she always talked about you. She said you gave her advice that saved her business when she was just starting out. That you were very generous with her. The memory came back like a wave. Lucy. A young woman, scared, who sought me out at that stationery conference back in 2005. I gave her my suppliers, my contacts, my tricks. I never asked for anything in return. Your mum was a brave woman, I said, my voice cracking. Like you, Sarah responded. That's why, when Ms. Celia told me your story, I knew I wanted to help you. Even if it's just with my presence, with my rent, with whatever I can. I looked at Celia, then at Sarah, and for the first time in days, I truly smiled. When can you move in? Sarah let out a sigh of relief. My things are in the car. It's only 2 suitcases. Then welcome home. The next few hours passed in a whirlwind. Sarah brought her things. We gave her the room that had been the kids'. We cleaned it together. We put on clean sheets. We placed her desk next to the window so she would have natural light for studying. It's perfect, she said, looking around with bright eyes. Thank you so much, Mrs. Cortez. Call me Amelia. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the 3 of us were in the living room. Celia was reviewing some papers. Sarah was studying anatomy on her laptop. And I was looking at the clock every 30 seconds. 4:57 p.m. My phone vibrated. A message from Robert. We're almost there, about 15 minutes. They're coming, I said, my voice shaky. Celia closed her laptop. Ready? No, no one is ready for this. But you're going to do it anyway. Sarah looked at us both. Do you want me to go to my room? No, I replied firmly. I want you to be here. I want them to see that I am no longer alone. 5 o'clock, 2 p.m. I heard the car engine. My stomach twisted. I heard the doors close, the excited voices of the children, the approaching footsteps, and then the unmistakable sound of a key trying to enter a lock that no longer belonged to it. Silence. Again, the attempt. Vanessa's irritated voice. What the hell? Robert, your key isn't working. Let me try mine. Nothing. The doorbell rang, loud, persistent. Celia touched my hand. Breathe. You are the owner of this house. Remember that. I stood up. I walked towards the door. Every step felt like walking toward a cliff. I opened it. There they were. Robert in his beach polo shirt and sunglasses. Vanessa in a white dress with her hair up, still wearing the hotel wristband from the resort. The kids carrying their SpongeBob and Frozen backpacks. But they weren't looking at me. They were looking behind me. Robert narrowed his eyes. Mum, who... I stepped aside. Celia was sitting in my rocking chair with a cup of coffee in her hand and a polite smile. Sarah was on the couch with her laptop and her nursing textbooks spread out. Hi, Robert, Celia said calmly. It's been a while. Robert went pale. Vanessa, on the other hand, turned red. What is she doing here? Vanessa spat, pointing at Celia as if she were a cockroach. Amelia, what is going on? The kids ran toward me. Grandma! Matt hugged me tight. Lucy clung to my neck. Hello, my loves, I said, kissing them. I missed you so much. Why don't the keys work? Robert asked, still frozen at the entrance. Because I changed the locks, I replied in a voice I didn't recognize as my own. Firm, clear, unapologetic. The silence that followed was so thick it could have been cut with a knife. Vanessa was the first to react. "What do you mean you changed the locks? This is our house." "No," I said. And that word, that simple one-syllable word, came out with a force I didn't know I possessed. "This is my house." Robert finally reacted. He walked in without asking permission, looking around as if he didn't recognize the place. And it was true. The grey couch was gone. Their things were no longer everywhere. The house smelled of lavender and coffee, not his expensive cologne and Vanessa's sickly sweet perfume. "Mum, what did you do? Where are our things?" His voice sounded somewhere between confused and furious. "Packed in boxes in the bedroom you were using." "What?" Vanessa ran up the stairs. We heard her opening doors, screaming. She came down in a fury. "Who do you think you are? Those are my things, my clothes, my shoes. And they are intact, packed with respect, ready for you to take them." "Take them? Mum, we live here. What are you talking about?" Robert was looking at me as if I had gone crazy. Celia stood up, walked toward us with a folder in her hand. "Robert, it's me who should explain to you," my sister said in a professional voice. "This house is deeded in your mother's name, solely in her name. You have been living here by verbal comodatum, without a contract, without paying rent, without contributing to expenses. Legally, you are guests, and your mother has decided she needs to reclaim her space." "You," Robert pointed a trembling finger at Celia, "you manipulated her. You've always wanted to separate us." "No one manipulated anyone," I intervened. "Robert, open your eyes. For 2 years you treated me like I was your employee, as if this house was yours, as if I didn't matter. We gave you a roof over your head. We took care of you," Vanessa shouted. The bitter laugh that escaped my throat surprised even me. "You gave me a roof over my head? Vanessa, this is my roof, and the only thing you've done is take everything from me under it." Sarah stood up, nervously gathering her things. "Excuse me, I think it's better if I—" "No," I said. "Sarah, stay. They need to know I am no longer alone." Robert looked at her. "And who are you?" "I'm Sarah. I rent a room here." Vanessa let out a hysterical laugh. "Rent? My mother-in-law became a landlady now?" "Your mother-in-law reclaimed her house," Celia corrected, "and she has every right to do what she wants with it." "This is not going to stand," Robert threatened. "Mum, you're going to regret this." I walked up to my son. I looked him in the eyes. Those eyes I had known since he was born, that I had watched grow, shine, dream. "Robert, I found the emails." He froze. "The messages between you and Vanessa, where you laugh at me, where you plan to use my house as collateral for your debts, where you call me gullible." His face fell apart. "Mum, You have until 6 o'clock tomorrow evening to take your things. If you need more time, we can talk, but you will no longer live here. Not like this." Vanessa opened her mouth to shout something else, but Robert pulled her arm. "Let's go." "What do you mean, let's go? We have nowhere to go." "We'll find something. Let's go." The children looked at me with tears. "Grandma, you don't love us anymore." I knelt in front of them. "I love you with all my heart. None of this is because of you, and I'm going to keep seeing you. I promise you." Matt hugged me tight. Lucy sobbed. Vanessa pulled them out of my arms. "Let's go, kids. Your grandmother is sick in the head." I watched them leave, get into the car, and drive away. And when the door closed, when the car disappeared around the corner, when the silence returned, I collapsed. Celia held me as I cried. Sarah brought a glass of water. They both stayed with me as my body shook with sobs I had held in for years. "You did it," Celia whispered. "Amelia, you did it." And although every inch of my body ached, even though I felt like my heart had broken into 1,000 pieces, I also felt something else. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt free. Because closing a door hurts. But sometimes it's the only way to open a window. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in my rocking chair, staring at the ceiling, listening to every sound in the house as if it were the first time I was inhabiting it. Celia had stayed with me. She slept on the sofa, even though I offered her the guest room. "You need to know you're not alone," she told me. At 2 o'clock in the morning, my phone vibrated. A message from Robert. "Mum, how could you do this to us? We're in a hotel with the kids, paying $180 a night that we don't have. All because of your selfishness." My hands trembled. I wanted to reply. I wanted to apologize. I wanted to tell him to come back. But then I remembered the emails, the laugh, the word gullible written with that mocking emoji. I deleted the message without answering. 3 minutes later, another message. This time from Vanessa. "I hope you're happy, Amelia. You took the roof from your own grandchildren. What kind of grandmother does that? You are selfish and a bad person. Robert is devastated because of you." I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. I didn't respond, but the messages kept coming, one after another, like waves of poison. "Everyone in the family is going to know who you really are. You're going to end up alone, completely alone, and you deserve it. The kids are crying, asking why their grandma doesn't love them." That last message broke me. I covered my mouth to keep from shouting and waking Celia, but she was already awake. She sat down next to me and took the phone out of my hands. "Enough," she said firmly. "This is emotional manipulation, and you are not going to fall for their game. But the children, Celia, the children will be fine. They have parents who need to solve this. You already did what you had to do." I blocked the messages that night. For the first time in my life, I set digital boundaries. Monday dawned grey. It was drizzling. Celia had to go to her office, but Sarah stayed with me during breakfast. "How do you feel?" she asked me while we shared a Danish. "Like something has been ripped out of me," I admitted, "but also lighter. My mum used to say that sometimes you have to cut out the rot so the healthy can grow." I smiled sadly. Your mum was very wise. At 11 o'clock in the morning, the doorbell rang. This time it wasn't Robert, it was my cousin Brenda. She arrived with an exaggerated look of concern and cheap perfume. "Amelia, what is going on?" She walked in without waiting for an invitation. "Robert called me crying. He says you kicked him out, that you've gone crazy, that Celia is manipulating you." There it was. The smear campaign had begun. "Robert told you his side," I replied calmly. "Do you want to hear mine?" Brenda crossed her arms. "Let's hear it." I showed her the emails. I explained the years of humiliations, the borrowed money never returned, the plan to use my house as collateral. By the time I finished, Brenda was pale. I didn't know any of this." "No one knew, because I kept quiet, but not anymore." She left without saying much more, but I saw doubt in her eyes. Good sign. She wasn't the last visit. On Tuesday, my friend George arrived. On Wednesday, 2 worried neighbours, all with the same story. Robert calling them, crying, saying I was senile, manipulated, out of my mind. To each one, I showed the deed. The emails. I explained with a quiet but firm voice. Some believed me, others left with a look of doubt. But I had planted the seed of truth. On Thursday, Robert showed up. at 6 o'clock in the evening, just as we had agreed. He arrived in a moving truck. I opened the door. He looked terrible, swollen eyes, unshaven beard, wrinkled clothes. "Mom," he said, his voice cracking. "Robert, are you really going to do this?" "It's already done." He walked in with two moving guys. They started bringing down boxes. I stayed in the living room, watching them take out the furniture they had bought with my money, the clothes, the children's toys. Vanessa arrived an hour later. She didn't even look at me. She went straight upstairs to the bedroom and started violently pulling out her things. I heard drawers slamming, things falling. Celia arrived just in time. She stood next to me, silent, but her presence was a shield. When Vanessa came down carrying a box, she finally spoke to me. "You are a snake," she spat. "An old, bitter snake who can't stand to see her son happy." I took a deep breath. I wasn't going to take the bait. "If that makes you feel better, you can think that." "It's not what I think. It's what you are." She moved closer. "And when you're alone, lying in this house, with no one to care for you, you'll regret it. Because we were your family, and you lost us because of your pride." "No," I said, my voice firm. "I lost you because you never saw me as family, only as a resource." Vanessa wanted to reply, but Robert pulled her arm. "Enough, Vanessa. Let's go." As the guys loaded the last box, Robert approached me. "Mum, I know I made mistakes." His voice cracked. "But you're my mother. Is there really no way to fix this?" For a moment, I saw the boy he was, the son I raised, the one whose tears I wiped away when he was scared at night. But he wasn't that boy anymore. He was a man who had used me, lied to me, and planned to strip me of everything. "There is a way," I said. "It's called consequences, and it's time for you to face them." His eyes hardened. "Then this is goodbye." "No, it's see you later. When you're ready to talk for real, without Vanessa feeding you lies, without manipulation games, I'll be here." Robert shook his head. "You're a stranger." "No, Robert. You turned your mother into a stranger. I just stopped letting it happen." He left, without looking back. The truck drove away. Celia closed the door. The silence that remained was different from before. It wasn't loneliness. It was peace. But the storm wasn't over. On Friday, my phone exploded. Messages from relatives who never called. Now all of them full of opinions. "Amelia, how could you kick out your son? Family comes first. This is unforgivable. Robert says you're sick. Do you need medical help?" Some even suggested I had senile dementia, that Celia had brainwashed me to get my house. It was exhausting, hurtful, but also revealing. All those people who were now judging me. Where were they when I was working 12 hours a day at the store? When I was widowed at 28? When Robert was taking money from me over and over again? None of them were there. But now they all had opinions. "Block them," Celia told me. "All of them. You don't owe them explanations." "But they're family." "Family is not who shares your blood, Amelia. It's who respects your dignity." She was right. That night, I blocked 17 numbers, and for the first time in weeks, my phone went silent. On Saturday, a week after Robert's return, Sarah came into the kitchen with her laptop. "Mrs. Amelia, you need to see this." She showed me Facebook. Vanessa had made a public post. "There are people in this world who forget what family means, who prefer money and selfishness over their own grandchildren. We are going through a very difficult time thanks to a person who decided to put herself first. But God sees everything, and life has a way of paying up." She attached a picture of the children, looking sad. It had 127 comments, most of them in support of her. Some asking what had happened, others cursing the bad grandmother. I felt the air leave my lungs. Don't read the comments, Sarah warned me. But it was too late. How sad there are grandmothers like that. Poor little angels. May God protect them from heartless people. Old age is unforgiving. Sometimes older people lose their sanity. I closed the laptop. My hands were shaking. Am I going to lose everyone for doing the right thing? Sarah took my hands in hers. Mrs. Amelia, my mum always said, the truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs time. Give them time. The people who truly know you will know who you are. That night I received an unexpected message. It was from Matt, my grandson, from Robert's phone. Grandma, I miss you. Did I do something wrong? Is that why you don't love us anymore? I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried in days. I responded immediately. My beautiful love, you didn't do anything wrong. I love you with all my heart, and I will always be your grandma. Nothing will change that. Things between adults are complicated, but my love for you will never be complicated. It will always be simple, pure, and forever. I love you, Matt. There was no answer. Robert probably read the message and blocked the contact, but it had gotten through, and that was enough. 1 week, 7 days of attacks, lies, manipulation, but I was still standing, and my house, my real home, was still mine. Because when you decide to take back your life, not everyone will understand. Some will attack you, others will judge you, but the ones who matter, the ones who truly love you, will stay. And finding out who those people are is the most painful and most necessary gift life can give you. 2 weeks after Robert left, the storm still hadn't subsided, but it had changed form. It was no longer shouts or slamming doors. Now it was something quieter, more poisonous. It was the silence of those who stopped calling, the neighbors' averted glances when I went to the store, the WhatsApp messages left on read by cousins who used to share jokes with me. On Wednesday, I went to the market. Mrs. Rodriguez, the vegetable lady who had known me for 20 years, barely greeted me. "Good morning, Mrs. Rodriguez." "Morning," she replied dryly, without looking me in the eye. I bought tomatoes, onions, bell peppers. When I went to pay, I heard her low voice talking to the woman next to her. That's the one who kicked out her son and grandchildren. They say she went crazy. I felt like I'd been doused with cold water. I paid in silence and left. When I got home, tears were already rolling down my cheeks. Sarah was studying in the living room. When she saw me, she closed her book. "What happened?" I told her. She shook her head. "People talk without knowing. But they're talking. What if they're right, Sarah? What if I'm the one who's wrong?" "Did you take back what was yours?" "Yes." "Did you set fair boundaries?" "Yes." "Did you hurt someone for no reason?" "No." "Then you're not wrong. You're being defamed." What's the difference? But the words, though true, didn't take away the pain. On Thursday, I received a call from my friend Ellen's home number. I hadn't seen her since Christmas, but we had been friends for 30 years. "Hello?" "Amelia, it's me." Her voice sounded distant, cold. "Ellen, it's good to hear from you. I'm not calling to catch up. I'm calling because Robert came to my house yesterday, crying, telling me everything you did to him." My stomach twisted. "Ellen, if you'll let me explain. I don't need you to explain anything. I've known that boy since he was a baby. I know what kind of son he is. And honestly, Amelia, I'm disappointed in you. A mother doesn't do what you did." A mother also doesn't deserve. Don't interrupt me. I called to tell you not to count on me for anything. I don't want to know someone capable of doing that to her own flesh and blood. She hung up. I was left holding the phone, trembling. Celia arrived that afternoon and found me sitting in the rocking chair, staring at the wall. What happened? I told her about Ellen, about Mrs. Rodriguez, about all the little stabs that felt worse than a direct blow. Celia sighed. Robert and Vanessa are doing exactly what I expected. A systematic smear campaign. They go person by person, crying, playing the victims. And what do I do? Nothing. I looked at her, confused. The truth doesn't need active defense, Amelia. It just needs time. Eventually, people will see who Robert really is, but you have to be patient. I don't know if I can do it. That night, I couldn't eat dinner. I went to bed early, but sleep didn't come. At 11:30, my phone vibrated. An unknown number. I hesitated, but answered. Hello? Silence. Then, Vanessa's voice, cold as ice. I hope you're happy, Amelia. You destroyed this family. Vanessa, how did you get this number? It doesn't matter how. What matters is that you know the kids are doing badly. Matt won't eat. Lucy cries every night asking for you. Is that what you wanted? My heart wrenched. Vanessa, I never wanted. Yes, you did. You wanted to punish us for not obeying you like your lapdog. Well, congratulations, you succeeded. But when those children grow up and hate you, remember this moment. Let me talk to them. No, you no longer have the right. You earned this. She hung up. I was left sitting in the darkness, trembling, the phone still at my ear. Had I done the right thing? Or was I really destroying my family? On Friday, something changed. I was having breakfast when a message arrived on the family group chat. That group where everyone was, cousins, aunts, nephews. The one that used to be for birthday wishes and meeting announcements. Robert had written, Family. It is with sadness that I inform you that my mother is going through mental health issues. We have tried to help her, but she refuses. She is now living with strangers in the house, referring to Celia and an unknown tenant. If anyone can talk to her and make her see reason, I will be grateful. The children need her. He attached a photo. It was me, taken from outside my house, through the window. I was in my pajamas, my hair messy, looking tired. He had spied on me. He had come to my house secretly and photographed me without my consent. I felt a mixture of disgust and terror. The messages started coming in. Oh, poor Amelia. Old age is cruel. Can't we do something legal? Take her to a doctor. Robert, count on us. That's not your mum. It's the illness. I couldn't breathe. I picked up the phone and called Celia. When she answered, all I could say was, They're destroying me. 20 minutes later, she was at my house. I showed her the group, the messages, the photo. Her face hardened in a way I had never seen. This has crossed the line. This is defamation, invasion of privacy, and harassment. What do I do? First, you leave that group. You don't participate in their circus. Second, we document everything, screenshots, dates, times. And third, she paused, we need evidence of your mental lucidity. How? You're going to see a doctor, a psychiatrist, ideally. They're going to give you a complete evaluation. And when you walk out of there with a certificate that says you are perfectly sane, Robert won't have anywhere to hide. The following Monday, I was sitting in the office of Dr. Patricia Hernandez, a psychiatrist with 30 years of experience. She asked me questions, many questions about my life, my family, my recent decisions. She asked me to solve logical problems, to remember sequences, to talk about my emotions. 3 hours later, I left with an official document. The patient, Amelia Cortez Velez, 67 years old, presents full mental faculties, intact memory, adequate logical reasoning, and complete capacity for making decisions about her estate and her life. No evidence of cognitive decline, dementia, or psychiatric alterations that compromise her judgment was found. She is in full use of her mental and legal faculties, signed, sealed, and with a professional license number. When I showed it to Celia, she smiled. "This is gold, Amelia, pure gold." That night, Celia wrote a message in the family group, from my account, but drafted by her. "Good morning, family, this is Amelia. I have read the recent messages with sadness. It hurts me that I am spoken of as if I were incapacitated, when the reality is very different. I am attaching a recent psychiatric evaluations that confirms I am in full use of my faculties. The decisions I have made regarding my estate are mine, conscious, and just. I respect that everyone has their opinion, but I will not allow myself to be defamed. I wish you all the best." I attached the PDF of the medical certificate. The silence that followed was deafening. No one responded, but 3 people left the group, including Robert. On Wednesday, something unexpected happened. I was watering the yard when a car parked in front of my house. 2 figures got out. It was Matt and Lucy, alone. I ran toward them. "Kids, what are you doing here? Where are your parents?" Matt, at 12 years old, looked older than I remembered, more serious. "We ran away, Grandma." "How?" "Dad and Mum went to run an errand. They left Lucy with the neighbour and me alone at home because I'm old enough. I went to get Lucy and we took an Uber. I had $34 saved from my birthday." Lucy hugged my legs, crying. "Grandma, I miss you. Why don't you visit us anymore?" I knelt in front of them, tears rolling down my face. "My loves, I have missed you every second of every day." "Mum says you hate us," Lucy said, her voice cracking. "She says we're not your family anymore." "That's a lie, a very big lie. You are and always will be my family." Matt looked at me with eyes that seemed too old for his age. "Grandma, I heard the fights. I heard when Mum told Dad they were going to get money from you, that you were stupid. I didn't understand before, but I do now." I froze. "Matt. And I also heard when Mum told Dad that if you kept refusing to give them money, they were going to tell everyone you were crazy, that it was the only way to get you committed so they could keep the house." The world stopped. "Are you sure of what you heard?" "Yes. It was about a week ago. I was in my room, but the door was open." Celia appeared at that moment. She had been in the kitchen and heard everything. "Matt," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Could you repeat that you just said? But this time recorded, so your grandma is protected." The boy nodded. And there, in the living room of my house, with a voice recorder on Celia's phone, my 12-year-old grandson told everything he had heard. When he finished, Celia turned off the recorder. "This changes everything," she said. I called Robert. He answered on the 3rd ring. "The children are with me. They are fine. Come get them," I said before he could speak. I hung up. Half an hour later, Robert and Vanessa arrived in a fury. They knocked as if they wanted to break down the door. I opened it with Celia at my side. "How dare you keep them here without our permission?" Vanessa yelled. "They came on their own," I replied calmly. "Because you manipulated them?" "No," Matt interrupted, stepping out from behind me. "Because we wanted to see our grandma. Because you lied to us." Robert turned pale. "Matt," Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I do. I know everything. The boy stood firm in front of his father, and with a bravery that broke my heart, he said, I know you wanted to take Grandma's house, that you said she was crazy when she isn't. And that's wrong, Dad. Very wrong. The silence that followed was so heavy it hurt. Vanessa grabbed the children by the arm. Let's go. Now. But before leaving, Robert looked at me, and for the first time in weeks, I saw something in his eyes that wasn't anger. It was shame. When they left, I collapsed onto the couch. See, Celia said, sitting down next to me. The truth always finds a way out. Always. And she was right, because what Robert and Vanessa didn't know was that the truth no longer just lived in my heart. Now it had a voice, it had witnesses, it had proof, and that truth, sooner or later, was going to take its toll. Because you can lie to half the world, but you can never lie to a child who heard you when you thought no one was listening. The days after the children's visit were strange, as if the universe had pressed the pause button. Robert didn't call again. Vanessa stopped writing venomous messages. The family group chat remained in sepulchral silence. But I knew it was the calm before the final storm. Celia spent more time at my house, working from her laptop in the dining room. Sarah studied for her final exams. And I tried to get back to a routine that seemed to have been lost years ago. On Tuesday morning, while I was making coffee, Celia came into the kitchen with a thick folder. Amelia, I need you to see this. I sat down. She spread out documents as if it were a scene from a lawyer movie. I investigated everything I could about Robert and Vanessa's business, the one that was supposedly going to make them rich. And it doesn't exist. Well, it existed. It was a multi-level marketing company, one of those that promises you'll make millions selling miracle products, a classic pyramid scheme. I felt a hollow in my stomach. They put in a total of $48,000, yours, from the loan they never paid back, from credit cards, everything. And what happened to that money? It evaporated. The company went bankrupt 8 months ago. The owners fled to Miami with everything. Robert and Vanessa lost every dollar. I covered my mouth with my hands. But there's more, Celia continued. I investigated their debts. They owe $34,000 on 3 different credit cards. They have negative credit ratings. They can't even get a loan for $500. That's why they wanted my house, I whispered. Exactly, it was their only way out. To put it up as collateral for a large loan, take the money, and who knows if they would have ever given it back to you. I looked at the papers, red numbers, collection stamps, legal notices. How did you get all this? I have contacts. And also, she hesitated for a moment. Robert tried to use your house as collateral 3 months ago, without your signature. He falsified a power of attorney. The world stopped. What? The notary detected it. He asked for you to appear in person. Robert made up that you were sick, that you couldn't move. The notary refused to proceed without seeing you. That's why they later tried to convince you to sign to streamline the paperwork. I was going to sign, I said, my voice hollow. If I hadn't found those emails, I would have signed. I know. That's why we're here now. Celia closed the folder. Amelia, with this, we can do 2 things. 1, file a criminal complaint for attempted fraud. Robert would definitely go to jail. 2, use this as protection. If they try anything against you, legally or publicly, we show everything, and they sink themselves. I don't want him to go to jail. I know, but you need to be prepared for what's coming. What's coming? Celia sighed. Desperation. When people have no way out, They do terrible things. I didn't understand her words until Thursday. That day, Sarah came running from the university. She was pale. "Mrs. Amelia, you need to see this." She showed me her phone. On Facebook, in a neighborhood group, someone had posted a long text. It was Vanessa. "Dear neighbors and friends, my family is going through a terrible time. My mother-in-law, whom we loved and cared for years, has accused us of horrible things that aren't true. She kicked us out of her house, which was also our home, leaving my children homeless. All because of a manipulative sister who convinced her that we are bad. We have lost everything: our home, our dignity, the relationship with my children's grandmother. And now we don't even have money to pay for the apartment we're in. If anyone can help us with anything, food, clothes for the children, work, we would be eternally grateful. God bless you." She attached photos of the children. In old clothes, in a small, dark apartment, with sad faces. The post had 89 comments and 134 shares. How horrible. Older people sometimes lose empathy. "I can donate clothes. Message me. Poor kids, they don't deserve this. Does anyone have that woman's contact? We need to talk to her." I felt like I was drowning. "They're running a public pity campaign," Celia said when I showed her. "And worse, they're indirectly asking for money. This is emotional manipulation at its finest." What do I do? Do I respond? Do I clarify? No, because if you respond, they see you as desperate. If you clarify, they see you as cruel. It's a trap. Then nothing. No, something better. Celia smiled. The truth, but not from your mouth, from other voices. I didn't understand until she started making calls. First, she called Mrs. Lopez, my old client from the store. She explained everything to her. Mrs. Lopez, without me knowing, wrote a comment on Vanessa's post. "I have known Amelia Cortez for 25 years. She is the most hard-working, honest, and generous woman I have ever met. If she made that decision, it was because she had very valid reasons. Don't be fooled by just one side of the story." Then Mr. Miller. "Amelia saved my business when no one else would help me. She is a woman of her word and heart. Don't believe everything you read." Ms. Johnson, who had bought school supplies at my store for 15 years. "I know this family and I know Amelia. There is much more to this story than they are telling. Be careful before judging." One after another, my old clients, people I didn't even know remembered me, started defending me. Not with attacks, not with aggression, just with testimonies of who I really was. By that night, Vanessa's post had a completely different tone. The new comments were cautious, some even questioning her version. Sounds like there are two sides to this story. If so many people speak well of the woman, something doesn't add up here. Why don't they show proof of what they're saying? Vanessa deleted the post that very night. On Saturday, 3 weeks after everything started, I received an unexpected call. "Mrs. Cortez, this is Francis from the bank." "Yes, what is it?" "I wanted to inform you that someone attempted to access your old account, the one we cancelled. They used old passwords and correctly answered the security questions." "Who?" "I can't give you that information over the phone, but the attempt was blocked. I just wanted you to know that someone has sensitive information of yours. Please change all your passwords." I hung up with my hands trembling. Robert. He had tried to steal from me. Celia arrived half an hour later. I told her. Her expression hardened. "Enough. This has to end." "How?" "With the complete truth, face to face." That night, Celia drafted a message. She sent it from my phone to Robert's. "Robert, we need to talk. The three of us. You, Vanessa, and me. No children, no third parties. Monday at 10 o'clock a.m. at my house. If you don't come, I will proceed legally with everything I have. The decision is yours. The answer came 5 minutes later. We'll be there. Sunday was the longest day of my life. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. I just walked around the house, going over everything I was going to say in my mind. Sarah made me some herbal tea. It's going to be okay, Mrs. Amelia. The truth always wins, and if not, then it wasn't the truth. Celia arrived early Monday. She brought her folder of documents, her recorder, and something else. A notary. A notary? I asked. Just in case. If we reach an agreement, we'll document it immediately, leaving no room for regret. At 10 o'clock, 3 a.m., they knocked on the door. I took a deep breath. Celia squeezed my hand. Remember who you are, and why we came this far. I opened the door. Robert looked terrible. He had lost weight, had deep dark circles under his eyes, and his clothes were wrinkled. Vanessa, on the other hand, arrived dressed up, made up, with a hard expression. They walked in without greeting us. We sat down in the living room. The notary stayed in the dining room, discreet but present. No one spoke for the first 30 seconds. Finally, Robert broke the silence. Mum, is this why you wanted us to come? To humiliate us with your lawyer and your notary? No, I replied firmly. To end the lies. Celia placed the folder on the table. Robert, Vanessa, we are going to put all the cards on the table, and at the end of this conversation, you will decide if you want to resolve this as a family or in court. And so, with the morning sun streaming through the windows, we began to unearth every lie, every deception, every secret that had poisoned this family. And although it hurt like pulling a thorn stuck down to the bone, it was the only way to start healing. Because the truth is not cruel. The lie is. The truth only hurts when you've been avoiding it for too long. Celia opened the folder slowly, as if she were disarming a bomb. Let's start at the beginning, she said in a professional but not cruel voice. Robert, 15 years ago, you borrowed $120,000 from your aunt. You never paid it back. Robert opened his mouth, but Celia raised her hand. Then your mother gave you $180,000 for the down payment on your apartment. You promised to pay it back. You didn't. Then $85,000 for the wedding. Another $85,000 for the business. Summing up everything your mother gave you in cash, loans, direct payments, it comes to $547,000. In 8 years. Vanessa tried to interrupt. She gave it to us. They were never loans. There are messages where you yourselves call it borrowed money, Celia cut in. But let's continue. The business. That multi-level marketing company you put nearly $500,000 into. It went bankrupt. You lost everything, correct? Robert nodded, looking at the floor. Now you owe $34,000 on credit cards. You can't get any credit. And 3 months ago you tried to use this house as collateral for a loan, without Amelia's signature, with a falsified power of attorney. Robert turned pale. I was going to ask her permission. Lie, Celia exploded. The notary has a record that you said she was sick, that she couldn't appear. That is fraud, Robert. That is punishable by jail time. We weren't going to do it, Vanessa yelled. We were just exploring options. With falsified documents, I said, finding my voice. With my fake signature. Vanessa, you looked me in the eyes for months, knowing you were planning to rob me and laughing at me. I showed them the printed emails, the same ones I had found weeks ago. Robert read them. I watched his face change. First confusion, then horror. Vanessa, You wrote this. It was a joke, she said, her voice trembling. A joke? Calling me gullible is a joke? Planning to steal my house is a joke? We weren't going to steal it. We just needed a big loan to get out of the hole. With my house as collateral, without asking me. And if you couldn't pay, I would lose my home. The silence that followed was so thick it hurt to breathe. Celia continued, relentless. Then comes the smear campaign, telling the whole family that Amelia is senile, the photo taken without permission, the Facebook post asking for pity and money, and the attempt to access her bank account last Friday. Robert looked up sharply. What? I didn't. Vanessa looked away. It was you, Robert said to his wife in a voice I had never heard from him. Cold, broken. We needed the money. We're going to be evicted from the apartment. And for that, you were going to steal from my mother? Your mother has money and we have nothing, because we lost everything in your stupidity. Robert stood up, trembling. The multi-level marketing business was your idea. We were going to be rich, you said. We just needed initial investment. I believed you. And now we are ruined because of you. Don't put all the blame on me. You also wanted easy money. But I didn't want to steal from my mother. Was that your idea? Vanessa fell silent, looking at him with eyes full of rage. And in that moment, I saw something I never thought I would see. Robert, choosing. He turned toward me. There were tears in his eyes. Mum, I'm sorry. Robert, no. Let me say it. Please. He knelt down in front of me. Literally, he knelt. I have been the worst son in the world. I used you. I lied to you. I stole from you. I let her treat you like trash, and all because it was easier than facing my own failures. The tears rolled down his face. I'm ashamed of myself, of what I did to you, of what I allowed. And if you never forgive me, I understand. But I need you to know that I love you, and that I finally understand everything you sacrificed for me, and I wasted it. Everything. Vanessa stood up. Are you seriously going to grovel like that? Yes, Robert replied without looking at her. Because she deserves it. And you and I need serious help. We can't keep going like this. If you think I'm going to... I've already filed for divorce, Robert said simply. Vanessa froze. What? This morning, before coming here, I spoke to a lawyer. I can't do this anymore, Vanessa. This isn't a marriage. It's a toxic partnership that's killing all of us. She looked at him with pure hatred. She grabbed her purse. You're going to regret this, Robert. I already regret many things. This won't be one of them. Vanessa walked out, slamming the door. Her expensive perfume lingered in the air, but she was gone. The notary discreetly retreated to the kitchen. Celia closed the folder. Robert, my sister said in a softer voice. What are you going to do now? I don't know, he admitted. Look for a job. A real one. No more weird schemes. Get a small apartment I can afford and try to be a better father to my children and a better son. If my mum lets me. He looked at me, waiting, not demanding. Did you really file for divorce? I asked. Yes. I've known for 2 weeks that I should, but I was afraid. Not today. I got up. I walked toward him. He tensed up, as if expecting a blow. I hugged him. He crumbled in my arms, crying as he hadn't since he was a child. Forgive me, Mum. Forgive me. Forgive me. I forgive you, son, I whispered in his ear. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, or going back to the way things were. If you want to be my son again, you're going to have to build it with actions, day by day. Do you understand? Yes. And I'm going to set boundaries, firm ones. I'm not going to give you any more money. You won't live here. I'm going to love you, but I'm also going to take care of myself. I understand. You deserve it. We stayed like that, hugging, while Celia watched from afar with a sad smile. The following months were strange, different. Robert found a job as a manager at a hardware store. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid $1,400 a month. He rented a one-bedroom apartment. Small, but decent. The children started visiting me every 2 weeks. Celia drafted a custody agreement. Legal, of course, with set schedules. The first time they came after everything, Lucy hugged me and didn't let go for 10 minutes. I missed you so much, Grandma. Matt was more cautious, more hurt by everything he had witnessed. Grandma? Yes, my dear. Are you going to really forgive Dad? I knelt in front of him. I already forgave him. But forgiveness doesn't mean everything goes back to before. It means I stopped carrying the anger. Do you understand? I think so. With time, Matt started opening up again. Lucy never stopped being affectionate. Vanessa disappeared from the picture. The divorce was complicated, but eventually it was resolved. She kept her car. Robert was left with the debts. The children had shared custody. With Sarah in the house, life took on a new rhythm. She cooked when I was tired. I helped her study, as if she were my own granddaughter. Mrs. Amelia? Yes? Thank you for letting me stay here. Not just for the room, but for making me feel like family. You are family now too, Sarah. One day, Sarah came up with an idea. How about we convert part of the garage into a workshop? A workshop? We could give classes to women in the neighborhood, charge a small fee. I'll help you with the organization. The idea excited me in a way I hadn't expected. 3 months later, Amelia's workshop opened its doors. We started with 5 students. By the second month, there were 12 of us. It generated $1,200 a month. It wasn't much, but it wasn't about the money. It was about the laughter, the stories, the company. It was about feeling useful, alive. Me again. 6 months after everything, one Saturday afternoon, there was a knock at the door. It was Robert, alone. He didn't bring suitcases. He didn't bring demands. He brought a lavender plant in a pot. I know you like the smell, he said simply. And I wanted to, I don't know, bring you something that will grow, as a symbol. Come in, I smiled. We sat in the living room, me in my rocking chair, him on the sofa. How's work going? Good. I was promoted to supervisor. That's $250 more a month. And I finished paying off one of the credit cards. I'm glad, son. I started individual therapy. It's hard, but necessary. That's very brave. I learned from you. We fell silent, but it wasn't awkward. It was peaceful. Mum, can I ask you something? Of course. How did you know it was time to say enough is enough? How did you find that strength? I thought about it for a moment. I didn't find it. It was always there. It was just buried under years of fear, guilt, and the need to please. But when I finally dug it up, I realized I had never been weak. I had just been asleep. Robert nodded, tears in his eyes. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making it up to you. No, I said firmly, but with love. You're going to spend the rest of your life being the best version of yourself. Not for me, for you, for your children. That's the compensation I want." He stood up to leave. At the door he turned. "I love you, Mum. And I love you, son. Always." That night I sat in my rocking chair. Celia was visiting, drinking wine on the sofa. Sarah was studying in her room. "You know what the strangest thing about all of this is?" I asked my sister. "What?" "For years I thought losing Robert would be the end of my world. But when I lost him, when I closed that door, I discovered there was a whole universe waiting for me on the other side." Celia raised her glass. "To the universes we discover when we close the right doors." We clinked glasses. I looked around. My house. My home. It smelled of lavender. It sounded like laughter from the workshop that would be coming the following week. It felt like home. It wasn't perfect. Robert and I were still healing. The children were still processing their parents' divorce. Vanessa still spoke ill of me on Facebook, though no one paid attention anymore. But I was at peace, because I had done the hardest thing a mother can do: choose herself without stopping loving her son. And it turns out, both things could exist at the same time. The workshop was full. 15 women of all ages, embroidering, laughing, sharing coffee and Danish. Robert arrived with the kids. Now they came every weekend. "Grandma, look what I made at the workshop," Lucy said, showing me a drawing of a house with flowers. "It's beautiful, my love. It's your house, with your yard, because it's the prettiest house in the world." Matt sat next to me. He was 13 now and in the middle of adolescence. "Grandma, my teacher assigned us a project to interview someone important to us. Can I interview you?" "Me?" "Yes, because I want to write about the bravest person I know." My eyes welled up with tears. It would be an honor. That night, after everyone left, I went out to the yard. The roses I had replanted were blooming. The bougainvillea climbed the wall. The lavender perfumed the air. I sat on the bench Celia had given me. It had a plaque that read, "For Amelia, who reclaimed her garden and her life." I looked at the stars, and for the first time in decades, I didn't think about what I had lost. I thought about everything I had gained. My dignity, my peace, my house, my relationship with Celia, a new friend in Sarah, a healthier relationship with my son, the pure love of my grandchildren. And above all, I gained myself back. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. The air smelled of wet earth and flowers. And I smiled, because true wealth is not in what you possess, but in what you do not allow them to take from you. And I reclaimed the most valuable thing, my right to live in peace, in my own house, being simply me. Sometimes the happy ending isn't going back to what you had. It's discovering that you deserved something much better. If this story touched your heart at all, leave me a comment, telling us where you're watching from and what resonated with you the most. Give it a like if you think there are stories that need to be told. And subscribe to the channel to keep sharing stories of life, dignity, and second chances. Because we all deserve to know that it's never too late to reclaim our house. And when I say house, I'm not just talking about walls. I'm talking about that inner peace that no one should be able to steal from you. See you in the next story. Take care of yourself. And remember, you deserve to bloom too.